Hello and welcome. My name is Allison Dawson and I'm the Student Development Specialist, English and Writing Tutor for ECTC's TRIO Student Support Services program. I hope that all of you are doing well. Today I will be giving a brief virtual presentation titled Writing a Successful Summary. This presentation will address the purpose and goals of summary writing, explain what to include in a summary, and provide you with examples and resources to use when writing summaries of your own. It's my hope that you walk away from today's presentation with a greater understanding of the purpose of and components needed to write a successful summary so that you may implement these items in your own writing experiences. As we begin today, I would like for you to take a look at our newspaper here under the blocks titled Purpose, Formatting, and Example and Application. Each of these blocks has a question or questions within that are kind of the takeaway of each of these slides. And so as we start with the slide Purpose, I want you to look at our questions here. Why do we write summaries? What is the purpose to audience relationship? And what are some goals and objectives to keep in mind when writing a summary? So we're going to begin with a quick definition. So a summary restates the main purpose or intent of a written, spoken, or observed text or work. Don't confuse a summary, though, with a textual analysis, because a textual analysis kind of reviews and gives judgment upon a source, whereas a summary just kind of states the facts, that main purpose or intent. So that, with that being said, summaries are written objectively, which means there are no opinions, reviews, judgments, or bias included. They are totally factual. There are no first-person pronouns included in summaries either, as you're only referring to the texts. Writing summaries also helps to ensure understanding. So kind of think about this in such a way as though you're writing like a research paper. When you're writing a research paper, you're reading through articles and sources. You're trying to understand them so that you can properly integrate the information from those sources into your writing to support your points. And so it's really helpful there as well, summaries are. And so simply put, summaries, the objective of summaries is to know the material well enough from a source to explain the main points in a fair-minded, factual way to your audience. So now let's take a look at formatting. So how do we format a summary? What elements do we need to include, and how will we structure those elements? And so here are a few things that we need to include. First, a bibliographic citation for the source that we are summarizing, whether that be an APA or MLA. That just if this is an assignment for you, depending on what you have, make sure you double check all of that. You're going to include the thesis statement or purpose of the source you're summarizing. That information will need to be entirely paraphrased. If there's something in your thesis statement that you cannot get away from paraphrasing, if it's just a couple words, it's acceptable to put those in quotation marks or quote those. But try to stay as close as you can to paraphrasing that so that we don't plagiarize. Main ideas from that source. You want to include all the main ideas while only mentioning the types of support, the supporting details the author uses to back those up. You don't want to use the specifics of those. So if the author of the source that you're summarizing uses data to support that main idea, you can state that the author uses data in your writing, but you don't want to get into the specifics of all the data. If there's quite a bit of information that you have to paraphrase as far as the main ideas go, you can always use headings if that is helpful. As far as referring to the author, you can use the author's full name at that initial point of reference. However, thereafter, you only want to use the author's last name, as you were not on a first name, last name basis with that author. When you're talking about what the author does, whether they acknowledge, state, or assert, those attribution verbs, you want to use those. However, you don't want to use he or she says. Again, you're only referring to what the author does in the writing. You want to paraphrase as much content as you possibly can. You want to kind of stay away from too much quoting. Quoting adds it adds some padding to your writing. It suggests an overdependency, so you really want to stay away from that as much as possible. Also consider this: the length of your summary should be only 20% as long as that of the original source. So keep that in mind as you're writing. You really want to try to stay as concise as possible. So that's why it's really great to paraphrase your content. Also, if you're using a summary for the purpose of secondary research, you might also include a concluding statement at the end of your summary assessing the value of the source. So let's take a look at how we begin putting all of this together. So this is just kind of a rough outline as far as APA, kind of a template here. In the top left corner, you're going to have your information, so your first, last name, your instructor's name, your course name or number, and the day, month, year in that order for that date. Thereafter, you'll have your bibliographic citation, whether that be an APA or MLA. Remember to double space that. And remember to include hanging indentation should it be more than one line. On that second line, you'd need that hanging indentation, but it's 5 spaces from the left margin. And then thereafter, you would begin writing your summary. As far as how your summary should be organized, your first sentence really needs to be more of an introductory statement, as far as including that author or authors' names, the title of the publication, title of the article, if applicable, and then your thesis statement from that source being summarized. Again, it's great if you can paraphrase that. Your second through fourth sentences, those kind of that middle ground there, where you summarize, you're going to state the facts. So those main ideas, you're going to mention how they are supported. Again, if that author uses data to support that main idea, you're going to state or write that that author uses data, not getting into all of the specifics there. And all of that information being summarized should be in order of how you found it on the source. So whatever first main idea the original author mentions in that text that you're summarizing, should be the first main idea that you mention in your summary. And your last sentence of your summary, again, should assess the value or the desired result based on the purpose of the original text. So let's take a look at an example quickly. Again, under example and application, we're going to look at that question there, that takeaway. How do I put each element together? And so our example today comes from Quick Access Reference for Writers 7th edition by Troika and Hess. This is from chapter 5C, and it's titled, How do I Plan a Writing Portfolio? So we'll read through that quickly. Many instructors require a writing portfolio from each student, so it is wise to plan for it from the beginning of each writing course. To do so, keep all writing you've done in response to all your assignments, including any drafts commented on during your writing process, as well as your final papers and exams. Throw away nothing, date each item. If you work on more than one computer, carry and clearly label a thumb drive set aside expressly for collecting your writing. A writing portfolio can be paper or digital, depending on your instructor's requirements. A paper portfolio consists of your writings collected in a folder or binder. A digital portfolio is like paper one, but in electronic format. It can contain links between and within individual texts. Your digital portfolio might be an upload from your work into an online course management program such as Blackboard. More sophisticated digital portfolios involve your own design efforts, including images, sounds, and video. QuickBooks 5.3 explains how to create a writing portfolio. Most writing portfolios include a self-reflection essay or letter. Feel free to use the first person I since it's about you as a writer. QuickBooks 5.4 suggests its structure. See below and page 40 for an excerpt from such a letter. So don't worry about QuickBooks 5.3, 5.4, page 40, any of that stuff for this. Just kind of going over that specific content there. Below we have our APA bibliographic citation. And we're going to jump over to this box on the right side of our slide here. I want you to take a look at the summary key before we jump right in. That yellow lettering will be about that source introduction. Our blue will be our summarized main points, and red will be assessed value. So our summary example reads, in the book Quick Access Reference for Writers, authors Lynn Troika and Douglas Hess address the creation of a writing portfolio. Troika and Hess present suggestions for students to consider when organizing their writing for the collection. The authors state the collection can be managed in print or technologically, while also informing students of some differences between each type. Troika and Hess also discussed the need to submit an additional piece addressing the students' experiences in writing. The author's explanation holds value as it is informative to students. So going back over and recapping that, our introduction introduces the book title, our authors Troika and Hess, and what they're talking about. So they're addressing the creation of a writing portfolio. In our summarized part, we go into the main points. So they start in that first paragraph by talking about suggestions for students to consider as they are putting all this together. In the second portfolio, they go into managing the portfolio in print, so on paper, or technologically, they use the word digital. And informing students about the differences between the two. In the last paragraph, they talk about that self-reflection essay or letter. I paraphrase that differently by talking about adding that piece, addressing students' experiences in writing. And then as a assessed value, the author's explanation holds value as it is informative to students. It informs students of the writing portfolio process and how to go about beginning that. And in our example here, going back to how we would format that on Word, again, you're going to type this in Times New Roman 12-point font, double space. But this is kind of how it would look like as it all comes together with that, your information at the top, that bibliographic citation, and then our summary. As we conclude today, I want to leave you with a couple of great resources. First, Khan Academy has a video called Creating Objective Summaries. Be sure to check that out. Great information there. Also, Hunter College has a page, a website, the Writing Process Guidelines for Writing a Summary. That's a great little page. I think you can print off the information on that page there and stick it in a binder. It has great information on writing shorter summaries or longer summaries, all the guidelines and specifics there for doing that. So some great reminders there. And as always, if you have any further questions, always feel free to contact me. My name, email, phone number, and availability are listed on this slide. I thank you so much for tuning in today, and I hope that you have a blessed day.